legend of the frozen hill people is one of the most chilling tales to emerge from the snow-covered hills of Bridgewater Corners, Vermont. It dates back to December 21st, 1887, when a poor farming family, isolated by the unforgiving wilderness, disappeared into the bleak winter landscape. Struggling with poverty, the family was forced to endure harsh, unrelenting winters in their humble cabin. But on that fateful winter night, a mysterious cold swept through the hills, colder than anything anyone had ever experienced. Neighbors in nearby settlements spoke of hearing strange, bone-chilling howls in the dead of night, and thick, unnatural fog rolling down from the mountains. When a search party finally made its way to the family's cabin, they found something unimaginable. The family, father, mother, and children, were discovered frozen, their bodies eerily preserved in time, as if the cold had stolen their very souls. But it wasn't just the unnatural frost that unnerved the rescuers. It was their faces. The frozen expressions of horror etched into their features seemed to suggest something far worse had happened before their bodies succumbed to the cold. Their eyes were wide open, locked in a silent scream. Some say the family never died, but were trapped in a nightmarish, endless sleep, cursed by an ancient force that still haunts the hills. On moonless nights, locals claim to hear faint whispers carried by the wind, agonized voices of the frozen hill people, waiting for release, their fate sealed by the icy grip of the mountain's curse. The 1962 Halloween massacre is a haunting legend that chills the soul. Shrouded in mystery and darkness, the story revolves around a single horrifying photograph taken at a seemingly innocent Halloween costume party. The photo, which has circulated through the years, shows a group of people laughing and dancing, unaware of the unspeakable horror that would soon unfold. According to the legend, what the photo doesn't show is the bloodbath that followed. The guests, 7 in total, were allegedly slaughtered that night, their bodies mutilated beyond recognition. Some say the killer was hiding among them, cloaked in costume, blending into the revelry. The massacre, though, was too brutal, too grotesque for anyone to believe. Whispers claim that the killer was never caught, and that the picture itself holds a dark secret, a silent witness to the horror. The photograph is said to be cursed. Anyone who looks too long at it, or even dares to search for it, may feel an overwhelming sense of dread, as though the spirits of the victims are watching, waiting for justice. To this day, no one knows the full truth behind the 1962 Halloween massacre, and perhaps it's better that way. Some horrors are best left in the dark.
In 2016, a strange and unsettling phenomenon began creeping across the country. Clowns, grotesque figures painted in bright colors, started appearing in the most unexpected places. They emerged from the dark, their smiles stretched too wide, their eyes glinting with something that felt wrong, something that seemed to hunger for fear. It began with fleeting glimpses, reports of lone clowns standing silently at the edges of forests, staring with their heads tilted just slightly, as if amused by some private, twisted joke. Then the sightings grew closer, figures appearing beneath streetlights at 3 a.m., lurking near playgrounds, their bright costumes garish under the moonlight. Witnesses described the feeling of being watched, a chill that ran down the spine when they saw those crimson smiles in the shadows. They never spoke. They simply stared, sometimes holding balloons that bobbed eerily in the night breeze. People reported being chased, the clowns lunging out of the darkness, their laughter shrill and unnatural, echoing through empty streets. The terror spread like wildfire, each new sighting feeding the growing paranoia. By the time October rolled in, the sightings had become a frenzy, a nightmare that blurred the lines between prank and something much more sinister. The clowns were no longer just hiding in the dark. They were approaching homes, tapping on windows, their faces inches from the glass. Their eyes were vacant, their painted grins too wide, and the fear they left in their wake was real, a creeping dread that no one could shake. The clowns eventually disappeared, fading back into the shadows as quickly as they had come, but the unease remained. Now, whenever someone catches a flash of color in the darkness, a hint of red or yellow, they wonder, have the clowns returned? They say it happened on a calm, clear afternoon, an unsuspecting scuba diver plunging into the depths of a peaceful lake, unaware of the nightmare lurking above. As he drifted beneath the surface, an aerial water bomber, a monstrous helicopter carrying a massive bucket, descended over the lake, ready to scoop up gallons of water for the raging wildfire miles away. The diver never saw it coming. In a single moment, his tranquil underwater world turned into a chaotic torrent. The water bomber's bucket plunged down, capturing not only the lake's water, but also the diver, pulling him skyward with a force so brutal he was stripped of breath and bearings. He was yanked into the open air, disoriented, tangled within a swirling mass of water that blinded and suffocated. Some say his screams were drowned out by the chopper's roar. Carried for miles, helpless, he was finally dumped, along with the payload, over the inferno. Firefighters on the ground watched in horror as not just water, but a twisted figure fell from the sky, crashing onto the burning earth. A scuba diver in full gear, limbs contorted in a final futile attempt at escape. The myth has been debunked, dismissed as impossible, a dark tale born from the fevered imaginations of those looking for thrills. But those who fight fires in the wild will still glance up nervously when the bomber passes overhead, haunted by the thought of what might be lurking unseen in that churning mass of water, a fleeting echo of a nightmare that might just be real. The tale of Anastasia Romanov's survival is whispered in the dark corners of history, a chilling story of a young duchess who slipped through the fingers of death the night her family was brutally executed in 1918. They say that as gunfire echoed through the cold, damp basement amidst the smoke and screams, Anastasia disappeared. She vanished into the shadows, leaving behind only confusion and a mystery that would haunt the world for decades. Sightings of a girl, fragile, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to carry the weight of unimaginable horrors, began to surface. She moved like a ghost across Europe, seen in train stations and dark alleys, always fleeing, always hiding. Her whispers told of betrayal, of tunnels under the palace, of guards who pitied her just long enough for her to escape. The people who found her swore that she spoke of things only a Romanov could know. Her voice haunted, her eyes empty as if staring into a past too dark to remember. But there was something wrong about those who claimed to be Anastasia. A darkness clung to them, a hint of madness behind their eyes, as though they had brought back something sinister from that night of blood and bullets. People wanted to believe, even as unease grew. Was it really her, or something pretending, something that had slipped through the cracks that night? The truth came out in 2007. Anastasia had never escaped. Her remains had lain legend persists, a ghostly reminder of a girl who for many will always be running, forever lost, forever trying to escape the horrors that claimed her family. They call it Alexandria's genesis, a mutation whispered about on dark corners of the internet, a genetic gift or perhaps a curse that transforms its carriers into something almost beyond human. Those with this mutation are said to possess eyes of an unnatural shade, a deep, almost glowing violet that seems to pierce through your very soul. These eyes are not merely beautiful. They hold an ancient knowledge, something that feels off, something that hints at a reality beyond what we understand. The carrier's skin is pale, almost shimmering, as if reflecting moonlight, and they lack the imperfections of humanity. No body hairs, no aging spots, nothing but flawless, smooth skin that remains untouched by time. For women, there is no menstruation, but they remain fertile, a cruel and paradoxical defiance of the natural world. It's said that those who have seen them can't shake the feeling that there is something distinctly cold about their presence, a detachment from the world that makes them seem almost spectral. There are those who claim to have met someone with Alexandria's genesis. They describe encounters with people who seem ageless, their eyes too intense, their manner too calm, as if they were only pretending to be human. Rumors say they live for centuries, watching silently as the world changes around them, untouched by the march of time, their violet eyes betraying no hint of emotion. The real fear is in the unknown, what they want, why they hide, and how many there are. When you stare into their violet eyes, you might feel it, the unsettling sensation that you're not looking at a person, but at something else entirely, something that sees you as no more than a brief flicker in the eternity they have already seen and will continue to witness. It always begins the same way. A driver alone at night, hearing something strange beneath their car. A dull, grinding noise, a scraping that sends a shiver up their spine. The road is empty, the darkness endless, and the driver pulls over, heart thudding, convinced it must be something serious. They step out into the silence, the cold night air biting against their skin. There's nothing around, only shadows, long and unnaturally still. They crouch down, peering beneath the car, their breath fogging in the cold. that's when it happens. A flash of silver, a brutal slice, and the driver screams. The pain is instant, searing as their ankles are cut open, tendons severed. They collapse to the ground, writhing in agony, unable to move, the world blurring around them. In their panic, they see it, a shadowy figure emerging from underneath the car, moving with a calm, predatory grace. The thief rises, stepping over the driver as if they are nothing more than a discarded object. Without a word, they slide into the car, the door slamming shut, the engine roaring to life. The headlights sweep across the road, illuminating the driver's twisted form for a heartbeat before the car speeds away, leaving them alone, helpless, bleeding into the asphalt. The legend of the ankle-slicing car thief is a warning, a reminder that not all noises should be investigated, not every strange sound should be pursued. Because sometimes, in the dead of night, what waits in the shadows is not just a problem to be fixed, but a nightmare lurking beneath, ready to strike when you least expect it. In the depths of the Nevada desert lies a place that hums with secrecy and dread, a location known to most as Area 51. Officially, it is just a section of the Nevada Test and Training Range, but the whispers tell a different story. Beneath the scorching sun by day and the bone-chilling cold by night, something far more sinister is said to lurk behind the barbed wire, guarded by armed soldiers and watchful eyes. Those who dare to venture too close to the perimeter speak of strange encounters, lights that flash in the dead of night, darting across the sky at impossible speeds, a low, rhythmic humming that seems to vibrate from deep underground, unsettling, unnatural. It's not uncommon to spot black SUVs patrolling the empty roads, their windows tinted dark, their occupants unseen. They watch, they follow, ensuring no one gets too close, ensuring the secrets stay buried. The rumors claim that deep within Area 51 are hidden the wreckage of something not from this earth. A twisted metal craft, battered and ancient, locked away beneath layers of concrete and steel. There are tales of bodies, too, fragile, gray-skinned figures with elongated limbs and eyes that seem to stare beyond death, forever frozen in cold clinical chambers. The scientists there, it is said, are not merely studying them, they are experimenting, trying to unlock the secrets of the cosmos, bending natural laws that should never be disturbed. And then there are the voices. Late at night, when the desert winds are still, some claim to hear them. Soft, echoing murmurs coming from beneath the ground. They sound almost human, but there's something off about them. An edge that hints at a language not of this world, a plea or perhaps a warning. The government insists Area 51 is nothing but a military installation, a test ground for advanced aircraft. But those who have seen the strange lights, who have felt the ground vibrate beneath their feet, know otherwise. They say that Area 51 is not just a base, it's a threshold, a point where our world meets something else, something beyond comprehension. And those who get too close may find themselves staring into the sky, realizing too late that the watchers are staring back, their intentions unknown, their patience running thin. There is a small town tucked away in a forgotten corner of the countryside where something strange happened every morning at precisely 5 a.m. The townspeople called it the baby train. It was said that each day, without fail, a train would pass through, its whistle echoing through the empty streets, a sound that tore through sleep and dreams, leaving only the darkness before dawn. The whistle had an eerie quality, something that seemed to linger in the air long after the train was gone. It was almost like a voice, calling out to those still trapped in the haze of sleep, urging them to do something, anything, to fill the empty, unsettling hour. Couples would wake, eyes half open, feeling a compulsion they couldn't quite place. It was too early to start the day, too late to drift back into peaceful slumber. In that strange, suspended time, they turned to each other, as if possessed by some unseen force. Months passed, and soon the town found itself in the midst of a baby boom, a surge of infants born at almost exactly the same time. But there was something peculiar about the children. They were quiet, too quiet, their eyes wide and unblinking, as if they had brought something back with them from the foggy mornings when they were conceived. They grew quickly, their laughter echoing the train's whistle, high-pitched and almost unnatural, as if mocking the very people who had brought them into the world. The train still comes every morning at 5 a.m., and though the town has changed, the legend persists. The older residents warn newcomers, when you hear the whistle, stay in bed. Don't move, don't look out the window, and above all, don't answer the call. Because those born of the baby train are not quite like other children, and perhaps it's best not to add to their numbers. One stormy night, a teenage babysitter named Sarah sat alone in the darkened house, listening to the quiet breaths of the children sleeping upstairs. The air was thick with silence, only broken by occasional creaks echoing through the empty hallways. Suddenly, the phone rang, slicing through the silence like a knife. She jumped, her heart pounding as she answered. A low, gravelly voice whispered, "Have you checked the children?" Startled, Sarah shook off the unease, assuming it was a prank call. But the phone rang again, the same voice repeating, chillingly deliberate, "Have you checked the children?" An icy dread seeped into her bones. She slammed the phone down, but the relentless calls persisted, each one taunting her, each one making her feel more trapped, more exposed. Finally, she dialed the police, and they promised to trace the next call. Moments later, the phone rang. She picked up, and the whisper came again, "Check the children." The line clicked. Then the police came through urgently. "Get out of the house. The call is coming from inside." A scream caught in her throat as she bolted for the door, but a shadow loomed at the top of the stairs, watching. In that moment, Sarah realized she wasn't alone. The door creaked open just an inch, her only escape blocked by the flickering figure that descended, step by slow, ominous step.
In the mist-shrouded town of Cannon Beach, where the coastal fog blankets the landscape, locals share a chilling tale of the Bandage Man. They say he was once a logger, a man hardened by years of grueling labour, but fate twisted his life in a nightmarish direction when a brutal accident at the sawmill left him shredded, his body mangled by spinning blades, flesh torn and bones splintered. The legend tells of his agonising screams that echoed long after the sawdust settled, his body cloaked in blood-soaked bandages, clinging to life before death finally claimed him. Yet death did not bring him peace. No, it bound him to the land, cursed to wander the coastal roads and woods, an undying shadow of suffering and rage. Locals claim that the Bandage Man haunts the old logging roads, reeking of decay and vengeance, waiting to unleash his fury on unsuspecting travellers who dare cross his path. On a cold, moonless night, two teenagers named Lisa and Mark drove up to a secluded lookout on the cliff, their laughter carrying through the still night. They parked, content with each other's company and the eerie quiet surrounding them. But as they leaned in close, the car suddenly shook, as if struck by an unseen force. Startled, Mark scanned the darkness, his pulse quickening. Nothing but fog and shadow met his gaze. Then came a stench, the foul, sickly odour of rotting flesh and mould. It seeped into the car like an omen. Suddenly, from the corner of her eye, Lisa spotted a movement. A figure lumbering toward them, wrapped head to toe in filthy, blood-streaked bandages, his form twitching with unnatural jerks. His eyes glowed faintly beneath the layers, glinting with a twisted fury as he dragged his broken
Mark slammed the car into reverse, his hands trembling on the wheel. The bandaged man reached the vehicle, clawing at the doors with cracked, bloodied fingers, smearing the glass with sticky red streaks. His muffled grunts turned to frenzied snarls as he pounded, each strike heavier, filled with unspeakable malice. His bandages hung loose, revealing glimpses of torn flesh and exposed bone beneath. Mark and Lisa's screams filled the car as he threw the vehicle into drive, tires squealing as they sped down the winding road. But the bandaged man didn't relent. He clung to the bumper, his bandaged face pressed against the rear window, eyes locked with theirs, as if daring them to look away. His grip grew stronger, pulling himself up inch by inch, his bandages trailing behind like gruesome streamers. With a final, desperate turn, Mark swerved off the main road, nearly careening into the forest as the car skidded to a halt. They waited, breath held, but the bandaged man had vanished, his rotting scent lingering like a ghostly reminder. They dared not speak as they drove back to town, only to realise later that the windows bore streaks of dried blood and faint, hand-shaped smears. The townsfolk say that if you're driving alone on foggy nights and catch a whiff of that deathly odour, it means the bandaged man is near, and he won't stop until he claws his way into the car, claiming anyone unfortunate enough to cross his path, dragging them into his endless nightmare of pain and rage, bound forever by his bandages of blood. On the desolate, wind-swept expanse of Bodmin Moor in Cornwall, a chilling legend stalks the night. The Beast of Bodmin Moor. This spectral creature, resembling a panther or leopard, has haunted the moorland since 1978, leaving a trail of terror and grisly evidence in its wake. It began with whispers of a shadowy figure lurking near the livestock, eyes like embers piercing the darkness. Farmers awoke to a nightmare of mutilated sheep and cattle, their bodies torn apart by something with terrifying strength and unrelenting savagery. The locals spoke of massive, feline-like paw prints left imprinted in the damp earth, too large for any known cat and too menacing to ignore. The Beast of Bodmin Moor, as it became known, moved with eerie silence, slipping through the mist and granite tors like a ghost, stalking unseen yet ever present. Its black coat blended seamlessly with the night, making it nothing more than a flicker of movement in the moonlight. A glimpse, a shiver, then gone. Those unfortunate enough to encounter it described a low, guttural growl echoing through the stillness, a sound that lingered long after the beast had vanished into the shadows. Hunters and cryptid enthusiasts scoured the moor, hoping to glimpse the phantom cat, but the beast eluded them all, leaving only fleeting traces, a tuft of dark fur, claw marks in the trees, the overpowering stench of something primal. Some believe the Beast of Bodmin Moor is still there, prowling, watching, a creature of legend and nightmare. And on misty nights, when the fog settles thick over the moor, the locals swear they can still hear it. A heavy, predatory silence, waiting just out of sight. rolling moors of Exmoor, a sinister legend prowls under the cover of fog. The Beast of Exmoor. This shadowy creature, said to be a massive panther-like cat, has haunted Devon and Somerset for decades, stalking the hillsides with predatory stealth and leaving a haunting sense of dread among those who dare to wander alone. The sightings began with strange, gutted livestock. Sheep and cattle left torn and bloodied in the fields, their bodies shredded as if by claws, both powerful and merciless. Farmers spoke in hushed voices of a creature with pitch-black fur and glowing amber eyes, a beast whose presence seemed to darken even the coldest nights. With the agility of a ghost, the beast slipped in and out of the shadows, its massive form almost invisible against the wild, rugged landscape. The few who glimpsed it reported an eerie silence, a predatory stillness that filled the air just before they spotted a flicker of movement, a sleek shadow stalking through the mist. The beast's piercing gaze and sleek, muscular form struck terror into anyone unfortunate enough to catch sight of it. Hunters and locals formed search parties, eager to rid Exmoor of its phantom predator. They scoured the moors, rifles in hand, yet the creature always evaded capture, leaving only clawed imprints in the damp earth and lingering, blood-curdling growls in the distance. Today, the legend of the Beast of Exmoor endures. When the fog rolls thick over the moors and the wind whispers through the gnarled trees, locals warn to keep close to the path and avoid the dark, lest they become prey to the elusive,